What up? So I wanted to share this. I'm going to be playing a little bit of this. It is Heal Yourself with the Ice Shaman Wim Hof and Russell Brand. So please check this video out and find as much info and videos that you can about Wim Hof and engage the practice for yourself. So right here, he's talking real quick about this study that they did. I think one of the more recent ones that they did on him with this type of vest. Well, he'll explain it. But there's like, they did 74 people before him, and they all had the same effect with running hot and cold water over the skin and looking at the reaction of the body and also of the brain and what was going on within the brain in certain sections of the brain. And then they did it with Mr. Wim Hof here. So I'll go ahead and play this.
74 people have been tested with the perfusion vest, which is a vest firefighters use underneath their equipment to keep cool. So it has tubes inside with cold water. They pumped cold water into the perfusion vest, and then it goes back, and because the body wants to get warm or something, they cool it down and keep it on cooling. So what normally is shown is that the people with the 74 people all showed that the skin temperature was going down when it was cold, warm when it go up. Cold, warm, cold, warm, cold, warm. Those are the graphics. Then they looked inside the brain, and that what is dealing with the stress is the prefrontal cortex. Was very activated in their cases. And the insula, for example, when you do deep meditation for a long time, then the insula gets this euphoric state activation. So then you lose, prefrontal cortex is going lower, it's like blue color, when euphoria is there, because then the insula is working, it gets up. And in all the cases, this was very activated and this was very low, like red, and this was blue. There was no other activation in the brain. This was dealing with the direct stress coming in. This is what they saw in the brain. And then they took me. And when I did nothing, the same graphics. They saw the same graphics. The prefrontal cortex very activated, and
And at some points I'll kind of pause it and maybe give a little clarity or more contextual ideas. But let's see, what was he saying?
very activated.
Okay, so he said did nothing, so they wanted to get like a study of him just allowing the experience and not engaging in any way, like with any kind of breath technique, or as he'll describe, he doesn't. Well, I'm not for sure if they didn't want him to, or if, like he said, it was because it would mess up the readings that he couldn't even do the breathing techniques. So, I imagine it was very difficult for him to not allow that adaptive response that he's cultivated and developed just to happen naturally. So I'd be interested in hearing him talk more on how he used his willpower to not allow that to happen. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
and the insula very little activated, like everybody else. So, and then they asked day 3, Wim, now today you have to do what the Iceman is doing, your meditation. I don't know what I'm doing. I just do it. It's like in the water. What do you think of? Yeah, don't think, just be.
Exactly.
You know, just do it. And all these moments on Mount Everest and the Kilimanjaro, in the marathons, under the ice, losing my way under the ice, hanging by one finger in midwinter between hot air balloons, extremes, staying for 2 hours in ice, and all feeling fine. I gotta do that, what I always did. But now it's not nature around me, it's a brain scan. But I knew what to do. I had the confidence, I had to click. Oh yeah, that's it. So I went, they put me in the brain scan, and they pumped the cold water in.
And I also just want to add, like, what he was describing there, like, he just knew what to do. This is why any kind of cultivation or a practice, like, this is the purpose of any kind of, like, a practice. It's not to get caught up in just the act, in just the repetitive process of doing it, say of meditation or of practicing different aspects of yoga or breath work. It's doing so with an awareness of what we are cultivating when we are doing this. So I think this is something that kind of like Ido Portal says, is that we're doing these things and stretching so that we don't have to keep doing them, so that the body adapts and becomes strengthened and just becomes it. We through that engagement, the memory just becomes very much more easily accessible. It's kind of like a muscle memory type of thing that happens. It becomes automatic.
But my skin temperature did not go down anymore. And like 8 times, and coming and going, like cold, warm, had no effect. I was 1 degree up, and I stayed over there, cold or warm, impervious, and not moving. No contraction of muscles, no deep breathing, because you cannot do that. You see blurred images on the monitor, so I was not allowed to do anything, just by thought. Then they looked inside the brain. They saw very little activation of the prefrontal cortex, like blue, no activation. Very red, like insula, very high up. Like I was in euphoria. I was warm. The water was warm. It had never been cold to me. And then they saw something they never had seen before. And that was the activation of the periaqueductal gray hemisphere, which is the deepest part of the brain stem, the crocodile mind, the reptilian
What we're
brain.
not supposed to have access to.
Why? Because
according
we
to
never
them,
go like cold, warm. No, we are into this destimulative behavior, and all the people, they lose the connections because it's not necessary to.
Yeah, and so he's essentially saying the human body, in its design, it was, if you want to believe, evolved or created to be able to adapt to extremes and find homeostasis within that extreme. But not just that, but in a repeated act of finding these extremes and allowing the body to find the homeostasis, we build up essentially like what was always there, but we have become ignorant of because of the lives, our civilized ways. We have become desensitized with all this. What do little toddlers constantly keep doing? They keep ripping off their clothes, and then we just keep putting them back on. The skin needs to breathe. The body immediately it wants. Little children, they always are putting stuff in their mouth, and not only like to learn from it and engage that olfactory nervous system and create deep memories, but also to create antibodies to anything that they put in their mouth. And of course, I'm not recommending let your kids go out and you know, be around hazardous or poisonous things. But I'm just saying, like, this is what small, very like toddler-sized children do. Like naturally, they want their skin to breathe and to adapt and to learn and grow naturally. It's instinctive within us. But because of our programming and our conditioning, we have become soft in our ways, desensitized to nature, forgetting the truth of our own inner nature, what we have access to.
There's no need for the periaqueductive. Now, the periaqueductive gray hemisphere is the residence of our opioids and endocannabinoids. The cannabinoids, euphoria, nice feeling, like hashish, like a nice weed, pot, or whatever it is called. You feel, wow, they're great.
Yes. And like many of us, you know, say and repeat, is that these medicines or plants, they are there to help remind us of what's already inside of us. So I mean, it's up to the person if they want to keep on engaging that and not learning from it and get caught up in a little loop cycle there to where they become addicted. And this is with anything. People do that just with people. They literally do that with every little thing that they can. But that's because we've been conditioned into being susceptible to these states. But why do we have these receptor sites in the brain? Why are they there? Can we access them naturally? Can we learn from the plant spirits? Can we get there ourselves? This is why this man is so important. Is because he helps guide people to that. To experience for themselves the direct connection, the felt experience in that moment. To go into the depths.
They are activated at that moment within our system. But we got this T-shirt. It says, "Get high on your own supply."
Mm-hmm.
It's there. It's there for us all. So they saw me activating that robustly, and then they said, "We found the key components of the autonomous processes in the brain, thought of, inaccessible by humans, now accessible of our conscious brain, related to mood regulation." And mood regulation, mood is anything, is emotion. Could be through cold, stress, heat, stress, emotional stress, daily stress, all those things. And then they said, this is a transformational technique that will change mental health care. But how long will it take that it gets to the people who need it?
My assumption is that because you have spent all that time practicing the clear and more physical conditions of exposure to cold, you have learned how to activate, you said, the insular aspect of your brain. It's not consciousness, in this case it's your brain, it's a physical, measurable thing, so that when you are required to access it, you can. I felt that, so that's, you have a form of practice. Fascinating that you could access that crocodile mind. It makes me feel that perhaps the way that our brains have evolved is in, obviously any kind of evolution is by its nature incremental. But it seems that what must have happened with human beings is that part of the mind, this
this is going to go into the evolution or creation. Or if there's a difference. And if there is, what is that difference? And what is the significance of that difference? So did we evolve certain parts and then keep evolving on top of those parts? Or was it a creation and we had access to it all in the very beginning? And then over time and over many cycles, we got numbed up and dumbed down into the state that we are in now. And we're now re-engaging these aspects of ourselves.
Crocodile mind, where the opioids, you said, were, my ears pricked up at that point, Wim, where the opioid receptors are stored. This part of the mind must not, because it's formulated so far, separated by such distance of time from the conscious mind that most of us occupy, the relationship between these two parts of the brain is not being correctly formulated. But because we live in these lives where we are encouraged to live on one particular frequency, we don't know how to travel between these parts of consciousness.
Yes.
And when I think of the mystical role of the shaman is the member of the tribe that can travel between levels of consciousness. The shaman is the member of the tribe that knows how to access the crocodile mind. The insular knows how to go between these levels. And how do we see shaman represented in tribal cultures? As different totemic animals. They know how to access different parts of the animal mind. I like this.
And that's a beautiful representation right there, and an analogy of all the different aspects, and even mentalities, levels of awareness that can be represented within a totem and all the different animals and their specific and unique engagements with reality, and how we can willingly remember how to tap into each one of those and engage those either individually or collectively or both simultaneously. I also wanted to say real quick, I like whenever people talk about shamanism, whenever people who have done inner work talk about shamanism, because if you hear like scholastics or whatever talk about what they've read about anything, but especially about shamanism, then it's hard for me to listen to people who can only regurgitate what they've read or heard from other people and not what they've sat with and contemplated for themselves, meditated upon, really put some thought into it, instead of just constantly being in the rat race and being on the hamster wheel in the mind. But what I wanted to say real quick is Bible and tribal. Yes, the tribes had the shamans, yes, but even this design here, that's already a symptom here of the degradation and corruption seeking to into humanity, because the shaman is someone that has realized what is within all of us. But then the problem is, and this is kind of like the same thing as like being a guru, and then people and the gurus themselves, or any kind of a spiritual teacher, holding themselves up, having that spiritual ego, essentially. The thing about the shaman is that everyone is the shaman, and this is what we need to realize. Everyone is their own guru. Everyone is their own whatever, fill in the blank. Everyone. There's no, like, we all learn from each other, and at times can teach one another, share. But there was never meant to be one person that can have access to everything within them, and then all of these people huddled around them that do not, and that come to them for the truth, or for the guidance, or for the wisdom, or for the word of God. You do not need any kind of intermediary between you and the source, you and the all that is. What you perceive as yourself and the self, you have direct access to this. You are the shaman, you are the alchemist.
So for me, these practices that you are developing is a kind of a new shamanism, a new way of accessing different parts of the brain. Obviously the relationship between the consciousness and the brain is a strong.
Okay. It's not new shamanism. It's it's direct shamanism. It's primordial shamanism, because it's the most direct and simplistic method to access what is within you, and it brings you face to face with your fears and with your barriers. So you are left with the decision: do you continue to practice these methods and modalities of going very deep and shattering your barriers and your belief systems? Or do you hold on to the banks and don't go along with the river?
Wrong one, but it suggests to me that there is a relationship between consciousness and the body if the skin temperature wasn't altering. So it feels to me that if you were to try to, which obviously is your mission, to popularise these techniques so as many people as possible have access to them, it seems likely that before we could get to the point where we are able to regulate and control our own dopamine, that we would have to go on a process of learning these more basic forms of control. Would that be correct?
Yes, I always say, make it simple. A cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
And this is just remembering the access points. So of course, and sure, you can just jump right in, but you need to. This just comes right back down to using plant spirit medicines, or using certain any kind of engagement or practice of getting to a certain point within, and then realizing the access points that you naturally have and can do.
That's it.
Start having cold showers.
Yeah, that's it. And take a warm one.
Cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
Later, but first, a cold one. You know what happens when you first take a cold one? Oh, I need to go into the stress. Yeah. No, you act.
I actually recommend to do your warm one first and then end it with the cold, because that way your body naturally warms up slowly again. The warmth that has entered into your core like slowly comes back out into your outer extremities. So that's what I do. That's what I do. At least I go from extreme hot to all the way cold, and then just out of the shower after that. And that's always you will always feel fucking awesome after that every time. And there are so many benefits in doing that to the mind, to the body.
Activate your conscious brain into the brainstem.
Yes.
I had my personal experience of what you were describing and what you have mastered.
So now I'm going to skip to a part where Wim kind of guides Russell through a practice, and it's a very soft practice. This is the softest one that I have ever seen Wim do, because there are several videos you can find on YouTube where he people want to interview him or be guided into this, and it's usually a lot more vigorous than this. So we're gonna go ahead and find that real quick.
Nurse, the extreme nurse, the sexuality. You've taken it to the absolute pinnacle. Wim, teach me some breathing right now. Show me some so I can demonstrate it.
All right.
All right.
You got a clock here?
Yes,
So get me the timer on.
got it.
Right. I want you to go within 2 rounds, up to 2.5 minutes without air in your lungs.
No, I can't do that. I can't do.
You only die, but then reincarnate.
What if I don't come back as a guy with this haircut?
Oh
So you have to just press start.
no. Okay. So
Tell me what to do.
let's do just 1 round.
Yeah.
And about 2 minutes without breathing, you will stay.
Okay.
And without air in your lungs.
Okay.
And the consequence of that, all that, is a chain reaction within the body.
And I also just wanted to mention real quick, in case you are new to Wim Hof, the method that he uses, it's not anything new. It's called a tumo in Tibet practices. So I mean, this has been going on for a while now. Wim has just found a very simplistic way to be able to share, engage it, and share it, and guide people into it. And so he's done this with I don't even know how many people at this point. Probably, yeah, I don't even know what to guess. A lot of people. And I also wanted to say, I'm going to do this here too, with these guys, and essentially what you want to focus on is inhaling to your capacity all the way up to the tippy top of your lungs. So inhale as far up as you can, and don't necessarily worry about full exhale. So all the way up to your lungs, and then. And that's usually what he recommends and guides people to do, is that vigorous inhale up to fill up all the way up. Think about filling like just the top portion of your lungs. But in this, it's a lot more gentler. It's not like a vigorous inhale. So if you guys want to do this with me, I'm going to do this while he's guiding Russell Brand. That would be awesome if you guys did do this, and you left down in the comments what you experienced. I'm going to go ahead and recommend, if you just do decide you want to try this right now, kind of follow like Russell Brand's breath here. He's doing it in a very gentle and meditative state. He's not going vigorously at all. If you have done Wim Hof method before, go ahead and go as far as you want to go with the vigorousness of the breathing. And as well, at the very end, they hold the breath. They take an full inhalation in, and they hold and squeeze. And once again, if you're not ever used to doing this, if you've never really engaged breath like this and held it and squeezed, just do what you can. And of course, when Wim Hof is the kind of guy who's like, go into it. If you're feeling the tingly and the disorientation, go into that. Go into it. So I mean, of course, like this is what I recommend as well. But if you aren't used to this, you are going to experience a lot of extreme stuff, and it will be alarming, and scary, because but that just goes to show you how disconnected you are from that within you, because we're always supposed to have a connection within, to where it's not supposed to be that fucking extreme and scary and disorienting. But this is why we keep practicing this, is so that we keep engaging with it and reattune ourselves to this connection of accessing this stuff within us that we weren't ever supposed to be disconnected from in the first place, really. So if you want to hold at the very end, hold and squeeze for even longer, because what I like to do, I like to hold and squeeze until I go kind of like through all of the sounds and buzzing and disorientation, to where you kind of and you also potentially see some very visual stuff going on in your mind's eye or third eye or whatever you want to call it. So what I like to do is hold that for as long as possible, and it's kind of like you're diving in to deep waters, and then the pressure keeps getting more and more intense, and then you finally reach that point where it's almost like you dive so deep that you pop back out. And it's just where you pop out of is a pure place and a pristine place, and perfect clarity and attunement with the processes in the body and a balancing of that. Okay.
Into the deepest part of the brain, the activation of the adrenal axis, of getting into the brainstem and activate also the opioids and endocannabinoid system, which is responsible for activating the immune system. You reset your body to its primordial state.
Exactly.
That is what we are going to do. But don't mind about it, just do it.
Just do it.
Jenny, will you do the timing so Wim doesn't have to worry about timing?
Yes.
Don't think about it, just do it.
This is the podcast. Let's not do anything that we're just not losing any context. This is lovely. Okay, so I'm ready to start now.
Good. Like that.
So Jenny, just don't let it go off. So okay, so you're going to teach me this technique. It's on 2 minutes, so you can get it to 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
So, normally we do this 4 rounds in the morning. It takes about 20 minutes. So now we do 1 round about 5 minutes it's going to take.
Okay, this will be interesting.
Anybody is able to do this alone on a sofa or sitting safely like you are sitting now, and or bed. Don't do this in water.
Yeah.
Don't do this behind wheels
With a car.
because you really get into past your conditioning, past your consciousness. You can go, and there's nothing going on. It's great what is going to happen. Your body becomes very alkaline, which is just newly been proven in a scientific research, going to be published very soon. There's a lot related to this, how simple it is, how many complications will go away if you only do this. Let's go. Right. Fully in. Let it go.
Through your mouth, huh?
Mouth, nose,
Any hole.
Whatever you feel.
Yes.
I do it like this. Okay, with your mind, follow your breath. Go on, go on. Fill up your belly, your chest, everything you got. Put it in. Let it go. Put it in. Let it go. We will do 30. 30 breaths. We almost got 10. Put it in. Let it go. Relax. Put it in. You let go. Put it in. Let it go. It's all alright. Put it in. Let it go. Here is the meditation. Here's the goal. Even people meditating for years are not able to go as deep as we will go now. Go with the flow. Like the sea. Waves getting to the shore and letting go. And there it comes. Yeah. Let it go. 17. Pull it in. Let it go. Pull it in. Let it go.
Embrace the tingles.
Pull it in. Let it go. Sliding your hands, losing your body, tingling. It's all alright.
Yes.
Breathe into it. Breathe into it. Intensify. Whatever you feel is different. We are charging up the body. We want to go into the depth. We are charging up the body. Yes. 23. 7 more. Put it in. Let it go. Put it in. Let it go. Put it in. 4. Put it in. 3. Put it in. 2. Put it in. 1. Last one. Put it in. Let him go. Stop after the exhalation. Just witness. Feel the feeling, the rush. It's your blood in your nervous system. Charges, there's no need for breathing whatsoever. It's no hypnotizing. Just the magic of the physiology at work. Now we are, your body, your nervous system is getting into the brainstem. Slowly and surely.
Allow.
Oxygen levels begin to decrease rapidly. Thus the brainstem is beginning to answer, hey, there is no oxygen, but you are alkaline. Your chemistry is right. So there is no need for breathing. But the crocodile doesn't understand. And he says, I have to survive. Adrenaline shoots out. You get a reset to your primordial state wherein the immune system suddenly is within the reach of the will. And it's happening. All what is not necessary in the body, the wrong cells, cancer cells, half cells, it is being expelled because you need to be in function. A danger is happening. The body goes into this autonomic nervous system state of being to be the best of yourself. But you are doing it all consciously. You are at ease. This is the way we get into the deepest and take over control. The neurological pathways are right over there. Blood flow is going into the depth, into all the parts of the brain. Any brain scan is able to tell that. So there it is. Okay, breathe in. And breathe in.
Fully.
Hold. And squeeze to your head. 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. That is one round. Now this this is what these people did in the hospital, and then the bacteria had no chance. How simple it is. And when we are dealing with inflammation, causing depression in the end, we take away the inflammation with doing this within a quarter of an hour, and people feel revived of the depression and depressed state. So it's a cure for anything, because we are built to be able to prevent and heal from disease, both physical and mentally. And this is the way. And possibly, as you said in the beginning, I've been entering into these different yogic states and getting knowledge from the ether or wherever it is, because this is what they want to bring into the world, and it can be experimented and tested meticulously through scientific scrutiny and comparative research, that it is simple to enter back on with our contemporary mind into the depth of our beings, of our brain, our mind, our spirit, our soul. Anything is over there.
So yeah, if you guys tried that for yourself, or if you didn't, and you want to, mention your experiences, or just even talk about Wim Hof at all, please feel free to share your experiences. For me, the whole body starts to tingle, and you start to enter into that state where you kind of just lose your awareness of the inner and outer because of this feeling. It just, everything melds into one, and so that can be a little scary experience if you're not used to experiencing that. Also, you may notice that you'll start to sweat in certain places. You may hear like a buzzing noise. All different types of things that can happen. And within pranayama, deep pranayama practices, this feeling is called cellular cascade. So this is literally all of your cells becoming activated again and being charged. And so oftentimes after we do these rounds and these practices, we will feel that reset. We will feel that rebalance. All of our senses will be super, super heightened. Just after that one round, you should be able to notice that your breath feels much more lighter. You can smell things much more acutely. Your hearing will open up. All of your channels inside your brain and the five senses that we're taught about, all of those will open up and become rejuvenated, essentially. So yeah, I'll go ahead and end it here so it doesn't get too long. So yes, please engage this. Please engage yourself, what is inside of you. Yeah. Be brave enough to go within. And the more you do this and the more you strengthen yourself and realize how much control you really have, the less and less things on the outside will affect you. And I mean, yes, that's going to be dependent upon, certain variables, but you will be surprised at how much control you have over not allowing things to get under your skin, so to speak, or to have an effect on you. So yeah, check it, check it, check it and do it. Learn it and do it. Engage it. Applied knowledge is where it's at. Apply this shit, people. Get real. Feel and heal, baby. Peace.